faith and keep hope. We must also confront the challenges that test our nation's spirit. I think you've been trying to do that. I heard Senator Manzo today, confront, challenge. Mheshimiwa Senator, Mheshimiwa Susan Kiamba, I don't know that she's still in the house. She confronted, literally, excessive use of power and abuse of language, calling leaders that they have no brains. They have no brains. Well, I want to tell you that we have some brains, and Kenyans are very clever people. And even our children have also gone to school. We stand, I cannot speak of hope without first acknowledging the harsh realities we face today. As we close this year and look forward to 2026, we must be honest about the state of our nation. That's why Manzo spoke the way he did. We stand today at a critical juncture in our country's history. The economic burden placed upon the shoulders of the ordinary mwananchi by the Ruto regime in just 3 years is not merely heavy, it is unconscionable. We are witnessing a systematic erosion of the dignity and of livelihoods of hard-working Kenyans across this great republic. Men who keep on crying and they look forward to January now, there will be a further aggression, raiding of the payslip with increased payments to NSSF. And you know what they want to do? They say they'll ring fence those monies. When they sell the national oil pipeline, when they sell Safaricom shares, when they sell other state parastatal bodies, and they put that in what they're calling a ring-fenced basket, because they realize that they cannot increase taxes next year because that would be suicidal for them. They know this. So another way of taxing Kenyans is to put this money, say we are selling it, these parastatals, we put in this in order to perhaps plug in the hole that they would have otherwise filled by overtaxation. They know, they're clever, they can't. They're going to build roads. Consider the plight of our farmers, the backbone of this nation, who can no longer afford basic inputs like fertilizer to till their land. Think of the parents, decent and hard-working people, who are being forced to choose between feeding their families and educating their children. This is not just an injustice, it is a violation of the constitutional right to education. Even placing kids to grade 10 or whatever, everything comes with a level of corruption. Therefore, then, we must, Kenyans of conscience, must really determine that, God willing, as we cross this year, we'll never be the same again. We are not going to just sit there and be yes men or yes women. Our small and our medium enterprises, the very engine of our economy, are being suffocated by punitive taxation regimes and predatory lending practices that show no mercy. Can you imagine? Without dealing with serious manufacturing, our manufacturing sector is almost zero. I think somebody said that the example of Singapore, first of all, Ruto does not know that Singapore is a city-state. A city-state. Even that comparison itself. I think when you have to be very clear, you're talking about moving. I personally believe the time for the African tiger, the African lion, is now. Because we have our resources. You saw President Trump in trying to get President Tshisekedi and President Kagame to sign that peace agreement in Washington, which was witnessed by regional leaders, including William Ruto. I remember the president of Namibia was, I think, Angola, Namibia. The president of Burundi. They were there, but because William Ruto is chairman of the East African Summit, he also had to be there. Trump made it clear that the reason he's pushing Kagame and Tshisekedi to sign is because the US is interested in the rare minerals, the mineral wealth of this continent is unimaginable. It can shift Kenya to another level, not just Singapore. Not just Singapore. And so we know this. Leave alone the DRC. In Kitui, you have huge deposits of copper. And the prices of copper have been going up. If we got this copper and it is quoted in reputable stock exchanges, that will be enough to clear our country's external debt. I hope you hear what I've said. So when Ruto says we have no agenda, this is how we want to make this country great. We will not follow other examples, because those are Asian tigers. Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore is in that category. In Malaysia, the dominant communities are the Chinese and the indigenous Malays. That trade continues to the Orient countries, including China. So we have to get our own act together as Africa. East African Community Service collapsing under the chairmanship of William Ruto. He's supposed to have handed over the chairmanship to Mama Suluhu. Mama Suluhu's service is having stress. We are living in a stressed environment. So William Ruto should stop misleading Kenyans to a dream world which is not real. Without an important cornerstone, which is peace, Kenya is living peaceably. After 3 years in power, people in his backyard are getting killed in the boundary between Narok and Bomet. We have witnessed an alarming erosion of our democratic institutions. We again heard it from the senators here and other leaders, members of parliament, except our own members of parliament. I must thank them, the 20 plus of them, together with a few who refused, although they were elected in UDA tickets, mainly from Mount Kenya region. They refused to be state captured. We need to give them a clap, because that is the remnant. The rest of you are state captured. The independence of the IEBC is self-compromised, as we saw clearly in the recent by-elections. And we're dealing with that. We're really dealing with that. The judiciary faces mounting pressure, but this is the last beacon of hope. And we hope our judiciary will hold on. Key national assets, the JKIA, to Kenya Pipeline, to Safaricom, to ADC, Kenya Ports Authority itself. And I was hoping, rather than selling off KPA, please go visit Singapore again, William Ruto, and see how the port of Singapore, major transition in terms of handling world logistics, the port of Singapore stands out clearly. These are being auctioned off to the highest bidder. And I think that the highest bidder includes, and this is what is unacceptable, right? Those representing those in authority. They are hiding. They are actually selling to themselves. Now, this is what we are now, what is going to call a real revolution, because we will not allow it. No transparency in these dealings. No public participation, as is the case with the selling of the Safaricom shares. And without regard for economic sovereignty. This is not development. This is mortgaging our children's future. The recent exchanges between myself and the outgoing regime I've reviewed a fundamental difference in vision and outlook. Some have called me pessimistic for questioning the grandiose promises of Singapore first world status, because this is what I'm saying. I've called it the dead cat syndrome. When you find everybody's unhappy, no money in their pocket, abductions, unexplained killings, then you see the world is, the sun is shifting behind you, then you employ the dead cat strategy. Dead cat, you throw a dead cat on that table. Hey, faka amekufa, mweusi amekufa. Then everybody is confused. They forget about the problems you are facing. I dare suggest this is what William Ruto administration is trying to do. They don't mean anything about Singapore. We've been there. I said once in one of the interviews, I personally visited the port of Singapore, and I was foreign minister with President Moi, and we are learning how to use our port of Mombasa to follow the example of the port of Singapore. Nobody is against making Kenya a first world country. And let me tell you how we make this country. Those who are saying what has he done in 40 years, by the way, I must tell them, 28 years, yes, straight, as a member of parliament for Kitui North, member of parliament for Mwingi North, and then of course I went in as deputy, assistant minister, deputy president, minister in several of those ministries. A lot of people find it difficult to put down my CV. Paloma has tried. I keep on correcting her every sentence. Within 28 years, well, William Ruto has been deputy president, leave alone being MP, for 10 years as deputy president. I did only one term under Kibaki. All right? And he's already done another 3 years. And when he was deputy president, it was when he was putting brakes, like Philip Kaloki has just reminded us about that road from Kibwezi. By the way, Professor, that road was supposed to move from Kibwezi to Mutomo, to Kitui, to Mwingi, right? To Mwingi Kanduya, to Sekuru, with a portion of it cutting across to Gatunga and Maua, linking up Isiolo. That's an important artery. That's what Ruto has been playing around with. And now coming to the region to say, I'm doing this road from here, I'm doing this road from here. The same project, the same contractor, Sinohydro, the same that we launched. And they refused to pay Sinohydro. That is why there was stoppage between Kitui and Mwingi, the 17 kilometers, which got Mheshimiwa CNN confused. All right? And he had to go beg, because he was told, if you impeach Gachagua, I'll do your 17 kilometers. That is part of the same road. Speaking truth to pessimism is actually patriotism.